Hey, so last time I talked about meeting up with a buddy of mine, one of my real good friends. Something I wasn't real excited about doing, and ended up doing it that night. And to be honest, I'm not used to doing things softly, gently, kindly, whatever. But it just seemed like I just found a way to that night. It was good. It was a good thing, not worth getting all freaked out about for no reason. So that's been my week. And for quite a while now, I've had an interest. I enjoy doing film, video editing, stuff like that. Not that great at it, but it's something fun to do. It's fun to create something. And so I like seeing how movies are made. I like studying them and breaking them down. Not really watching for the story, just watching for just to see how these people unfold the story and the nuances, how they make it work, how they're able to impact people, to move people. That's been something that's fascinated me for years now. Just seeing how easy it is. I mean, storytelling is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Movies, books, TV shows, all of that stuff. And just learn how to master that. You can go a ways. But one thing that has stood out to me is the way conflict is presented in those. I mean, for the sake of storytelling, say we're watching a movie, we're basically just being invited into the writer's imagination on how something's going to unfold. And that's usually got some bias to it. I notice how there's protagonist and antagonist, the hero, villain. And obviously, most movies just focus on the hero with just showing parts of the antagonist just for the sake of story, just to build, to culminate towards something, to help to focus on the conflict it's building. And it's easy to make the protagonist somebody that we can all identify with, somebody we can all relate to in some way or another. And that's where most of the story is told, is through their perspective, from their perspective, through watching them. And not very often does the villain get a much of a sympathy perspective. I mean, it takes a good storyteller to be able to personify, well, to put the antagonist of the story in a picture that we can relate to and sympathize with. So then all of a sudden, we're all stuck watching all these movies and stuff, and then most of the time, and more often than not, we end up to some extent getting this kind of a hero complex. Like, this is our story. It's supposed to work out to our benefit. I don't care what you want. This is my story. It's supposed to work out for me. You are supposed to be an accomplice in this story. You're a backup actor to my heroic story unfolding. And those I like working with people that aren't churched, and I've been so incredibly vocal about that. They just have a way of keeping it real and just down to earth. Like this guy, he took a little bit of time off, and then he came back this past week, just yesterday. And so he and another guy were just talking, and I had to fill some stuff out. So I was just filling it out around them. They were just talking, our little communal work area. And then these guys just start talking about this and that. And then all of a sudden they start talking about their favorite kind of porn. It's like just casual. What? And I just go back to work and whatever. Anyway. They keep it real. But they like to talk about what they've seen recently, like the movies, TV shows, stuff like that, and just talk about it with each other. And then not ever do anything productive. They complain about insomnia and personal issues, emotional issues. If you quit getting your productivity fix from watching pretend people do pretend things in a pretend environment that's all controlled, maybe we'd be able to get a little more done. Quit focusing so much on ourselves and what makes us feel good, and how this movie makes me feel like more of a man or whatever. You know, we can all relate to something in the movie. They're not popular just because. They're popular because they got a way to connect with people, to elicit something in their imagination. And it's cool. They're fun to watch, you know. But I've had to, you ever just conduct social experiments on yourself? I have, just out of curiosity. And, you know, the more stuff I watched, it was so much easier just to start getting self-centered, just to start getting to be more aware of myself. Now, whether that's just because I don't have a very disciplined train of thought or what, I don't really know. But I have noticed that it's just easier. I mean, it's unspoken, but there's always that promotion of self for people that are watching movies, most movies. Same with music. You know, you ever just look at the lyrics of songs? You might have a catchy beat, but the lyrics are stupider than a kindergarten's. Just, oh. And then you start looking at lyrics for church songs. Like, you know, I say I a lot in this song. Whoever wrote this really seems to like themselves. And, you know, obviously, to an extent, we can't talk about what God's done for us without talking about ourselves. Let's not get stupid with it. But, you know, the real shallow songs that are just talking, well, that are just about saying words to purge our conscience, make us feel better about ourselves. There's so much more to God than just giving ourselves a pat on the back in front of him and then moving on with life. But it's storytelling. You know, Jesus told a lot of stories. We can call them parables because they had a point. You know, whatever, they were stories. We call them parables in church circles. But it was about getting something across and not about just focusing on a conflict between two people. One we can sympathize with, the other we know is doing something wrong. I mean, for as successful as the movie industry is, most of them don't really tell much of a story. It's just dressed up differently. And God is, let's get this straight, God is all about self-awareness. And Paul's mentioned it too. And Jesus said, by your patience possess your souls. And Paul was talking about not walking as fools, but as wise, circumspectly redeeming the time, having a point, being focused, being aware of how we carry ourselves, how it impacts others, and how our thoughts and actions impact ourselves. And a lot of times it's just become popular to hide behind other people's stories, to get lost in their imagination when they don't have much of a hint, of a smattering of God in their imagination, so focused on conflict between people. And I've thought for a long time how to express God in film. I really have no idea, so kudos to people that try. But you can still take attributes of God and put them in somehow. It's not about ignoring ourselves. It's about trying to promote that self-awareness and how God can use that to help mature us with his help. Where he can be our hand up and our crutches, our training wheels for a little while. And then just be our friend. That's what it should be about. But it seems like especially, well, not especially with people that don't know God. People let themselves get consumed in that kind of storytelling. It's easy to just see it in their lives. A lot of them are just so quick to talk about themselves and focus on themselves and not do much of anything to help other people. I mean, you can, like, not even just being a weird, creepy spy on their lives, just listening to them talk, getting to know them, learning how to be their friend on their terms, getting them to open up. They don't really talk much about helping other people. Never. I mean, like, you know, if you're friends with smokers, you know that a lot of them are pretty generous with their cigarettes because they know it's just like a commune. I give you one, when you got a pack, you'll give me one. It's a beautiful thing. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. Not giving because you know you'll get, but just giving because somebody needs something and wanting to fill that need, to fill that void in somebody's life. But a lot of times we don't see too much of that in stories without being able to see the culmination, to see how things come back full circle and our hero gets rewarded again. There's so many tangibles because that's the easiest thing to illustrate, obviously, in a visual environment, in a film. But God's standards are just higher than that. I mean, I told God a long time ago, just for me personally, I didn't want excuses. I didn't want to settle. I didn't want to compromise. So then he takes me up on it. And then half the time I'm feeling like crap because I don't know what's going on. I'm just learning how to get over myself. And I try and look around. I don't really see too many other people doing the same thing. I said, man, I guess I signed up for this without really quite knowing it. But man, if this is God, This is what I'm about. I don't want to come across like all of these mediums in contemporary society are just some terrible, demonic, awful, godless Philistine thing. Because they're not. They're just, I mean, you can use a hammer to build something or to hemorrhage somebody. What are you using the medium for? It's a tool. So anyway, I don't want it to come across like that. But to just be aware, you're walking right into somebody's imagination and getting lost for a while. So, may as well make sure whose imagination it is. See where you're letting your mind go when you just go into autopilot watching something. It's worth being careful about. By your patience, possess your souls, not by hiding your issues so you can watch the next episode, or so you can see this epic emotional struggle between hero and villain, or whatever. I just like the shows that dig into humanity, into people's psyche, and just can show the ugly stuff too. It doesn't have to be all gumdrops and roses. But it seems like that's what a lot of movies have become. There always has to be a happy ending. To be honest, I kind of like the ones where it's not. Dogs see a squirrel if you can hear them. Anyway, I like the ones where it's just you can't get away from feeling like crap at the end of the movie, and you gotta reconcile it with yourself. You're like, why don't I feel good after watching this? Sadie, shut up. Why don't I feel good at this? I'm supposed to feel better if I pay to see something like this. Why do I still feel like crap? Those are the ones I like. You still got to struggle with yourself, deal with your own emotions instead of just put them under some more anesthesia. So you can watch something else with a little more anesthesia. I don't know why I can't sleep at night, though. I've been running from my issues for years and years and years, and then I turn everything off and try and sleep, and I just can't get any rest because I can't shut my mind off, and I'm an emotional wreck. I don't know how to deal with anything. Well, but it is easy to get lost in the subtle messages of music and movies, all that stuff. That's by your patience, possess your souls. I wish I could think of a better way to say that because it sounds so religious. But when I first really, really read it and it really hit home, and that was the stamp it made on my mind. It was that phrase. So it's hard to change that. It's like trying to change a tattoo. Doesn't happen very easy. It's easy to just I said before, when I'm on here, it's not so much about just trying to teach. It's just I'm not trying to appeal to church people or anything like that. I'm just trying to convey that doing things differently than the status quo and just staying tight with God, that's what works out better. There's a quote by Johnny Cash. I forget what exactly it was. I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks and I just never found it again. But he's talking about how, in my experience, life can get pretty hard, but it's a whole lot easier when I just do it my way. It's like, man, it gets easier. It was not easy at first, but I didn't really know what my way was then. Now, still don't. But at least I'm comfortable with it. I hate people that just have a heart for God, not about church, not for church, for God, heart for God. I don't want them thinking they're the ones that have to deal with everything alone and just struggle through all this stuff by themselves. And just because they don't feel like they fit in anywhere. And I know what that's like, and that was a miserable time. And that's really, I guess, what I'm trying to just head off with the stuff I bring up, whether it's self-deprecating or not. Because the stupid Christian quotes that are like, God created every snowflake individual. And then behind that message, they all expect you to act like everybody else at church. Yeah, stupid. And there's going to be hard times when you start to learn how to grow with God. God's trying to pull you away from the status quo, build your confidence in yourself and in Him. And it's not going to involve that many other people. And it's scary and lonely and awfully quiet. But it's worth it. I mean, you just break through that wall. You don't have to, it's not in front of you anymore. You can look back and be like, that, I let that hold me back for a long time. I don't have to be scared of that. I don't have to worry about what people think of me. I don't have to worry about how this person is going to perceive what I'm saying. I don't have to just, all I have to do is focus on truth. I got God. And people that want God, I got them. They're somewhere. They may not be in arm's reach right now, but I'm going to find them. But we all, man, I was a victim too of just getting so caught up in how movies played out, how this multi-billion-dollar industry of pretend has just become my perception of reality. And it was just a farce from the get-go. There's these unspoken messages about how, it's always going to work out. The good guy always gets the girl, and whatever. They always end up together, and it's a happy hooray, yay. And, but there's never really any focus on the driving force behind that. And I haven't seen a focus on God except for a very rare handful of movies. God's the one that makes it all work out. And, it's more on His terms than ours. It's not about turning Christianity into a self-absorbed cult that talks about God like He's a statue. Doesn't want anything from you. He just wants you to come show up and acknowledge Him every once in a while and then go about your business again. That's not it at all. But that's what it's been reduced to. It's not about God being dynamic at all. It's just people assume He's just static. Just going to be there, telling other people what to tell you, and telling other people how to guilt you, and we're just going to assume that my pastor knows what's going on. We'll let him be the story, tell the story, and be my conscience. That's what I was trying to say. That's not what it's about. There's one guy at work. He plays bass in a band. He's been playing for years and years, and was getting pretty widespread, like just as far as the region. A couple states around had concerts, and then just kind of wanted to tame it down, just stay local, played for fun. So he's big on music, and one day he was asking me, what kind of music you listen to? And I was like, at the time, I just wasn't listening to anything. So I told him that. It's just, why? I like silence. I like driving to work in silence, driving home in silence. Sometimes I just sit on the couch with the dogs in silence. It's a lot easier to do when you're not afraid of your own mind, or your own thoughts, when you're not running from something, trying to hide from something, which was all I've been doing for like the better part of a month and a half. But we're all somewhere. You know, a lifeguard is just as human as the person that's drowning. The lifeguard's just better at knowing how to not drown. So, you better spend a little more time focusing on bringing people up to our level while we keep going. Because we all got something we can offer. Even if it's not much at all. You gotta start somewhere, man. Anyway. Yeah. So, well, I had some fun. I'll do it again in a couple weeks. But this isn't about coming across condemning it. Never watch another movie, anything crap like that. We're not playing church here. We're just being people talking about God. Just one thing God told me a few years ago, really stuck with me, was to just keep track. What he told me was keep track of where your mind wanders. That's where your thoughts are going to end up taking you. Not when I'm focused, but when my guard's down, when it just kind of wanders. Like my dogs without a fence. Keep track of those times. Keep track of where your thoughts end up, where they stop and have a picnic. Start doing that. It's almost too easy to get discouraged. You're like, God, I'm a terrible person. And then God's like, no, it's not that bad. Just be cool. We'll get it straightened out. I need you to just keep putting some effort in. We'll get your work done. We'll get you ironed out. You just don't give up. That's the biggest thing. Just don't stop. Don't give up. Keep focusing on that. Keep trying to rein it in whenever you catch it. We'll get there. That's helped me come miles. And then start feeling down on yourself. Maybe it's time to stop thinking so much about yourself. You wonder why you're depressed. All you're doing is thinking about yourself. Go help somebody. Get outside yourself. Realize other people have it way worse. Harder to feel depressed when you're around somebody whose life sucks more. Anyway, all right. So we'll do it again in a couple weeks. Peace.